Last weekend, Splatoon's global test-fire demo was available for a few hours to play, and it was actually really fun, with what seems to be some pretty cool map design and neat weapons. But what I wanted to talk about is how it got me thinking about the current state of shooters in general. I do have a lot of fun with shooters when they're actually good, but despite a few diamonds in the rough, there hasn't been a whole lot of quality titles in a while. I feel like this is probably worth attributing to the fact that pretty much the entire genre is dominated by one, maybe two series, so there's never really any need for them to step things up. There was a period in time where loads of games tried to ape the success of Modern Warfare to no avail. Anyone remember Homefront? Wait, they're doing another one? Companies thought they could repeat the success of Call of Duty 4 by trying to be Call of Duty 4. But remember, that came at a time when it was actually something kind of new, which is why it got so much attention. Despite the fact that the phrase modern shooters for a few years now has carried connotations of realism, patriotism, and the colours brown and grey, there exists this colourful, fast, almost childish game in the very same genre. It sticks out less like a sore thumb and more like a basket of ripe fruit in a field consisting solely of soggy cabbage. Just by appearance, it seems so vastly different from the market in the last 8 or so years that it feels strange even calling it a shooter. Perhaps Nickelodeon Paintball Simulator is a more accurate term. Really, in Splatoon, shooting is only a means to an end. While it is used to kill enemies, its primary function is to establish turf for you and your teammates to swim around in and get to places more quickly. While 3 of the 4 weapons in the demo were typical guns, what makes them feel different compared to other games is that they're not just separated by minute details in rate of fire, but that they all serve different functions for terrain control as well. For example, the sniper has good range and can take out targets from a distance or set up lines of ink to move along, but it's pretty rubbish on close quarters and has no width, so it's not the best choice if you want to get a lot of turf down. On the other hand, the roller is great for terrain control but has hardly any range both forwards and vertically. Because of this, weapon selection actually has a purpose outside of how hard you want to hit the enemy. You choose certain weapons to fill out certain roles and support other roles. It's not just about getting the top score in the table. Speaking of score and all that, I really like the way it works. Dividing the score up by how much map was covered means that just going in guns blazing isn't always the best solution. Sometimes you might want to take that alternative route no one has covered yet and use it to regain somewhere else that's been taken by the opposition, allowing other players to get through the map more easily. Or sometimes you might want to lure enemies out of certain areas to let other people roll in and paint it back to your colour. Many shooters nowadays also lack versatility in movement. Whenever a shootout commences in a first-person shooter, iron sights are pretty much the only viable form of aiming, which slows down movement enormously. The effect this has is that it basically turns the whole thing into a game of who shoots first, because moving while firing basically isn't even an option, and the usual walking speed is a joke. In Splatoon, on the other hand, as long as you have plenty of ink surrounding you, then quick getaways are still a viable option, meaning that players are encouraged not just to shoot at the person nearest to them, but try and set up ink routes so as to leave places open for escape or circumvent the opponent more easily. But by far what I like most is that despite its unfortunate lack of team voice chat, it is quite naturally good at encouraging teamwork. From the way different weapons in Splatoon complement each other by being so different to the whole concept of establishing routes for other players to move along, it makes it impossible for one guy to carry the entire team based solely on score. It feels a fair bit like Team Fortress 2 in that regard. So far, Splatoon is looking really promising. I'm glad that there are going to be more weapons with drastically different properties in the final game, but what I'm really hoping for is more maps like the Salt Spray Rig in the demo, with loads of alternate paths to establish routes on and a bunch of vantage points to boot. I highly doubt Splatoon will be any kind of game changer for this honestly relatively stagnant genre, but it gives me hope that there's still some room for imagination, and I hope that other games try to be just as different. Hey, Advanced Warfare didn't exactly take a leap from the formula, but at least the exosuits were a way of trying to mitigate the lack of any fast movement in previous Call of Duties, and it looks like Black Ops 3 is taking that further. In the meantime though, I'm glad that amongst a bunch of video game equivalents of lukewarm milk, we can get this cocktail of colour and creativity.